Good evening, everyone. Today we have Professor Rajaraman with us, who is a veterinarian and biomedical scientist. He is currently the Associate Dean of Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Raj got his master's in veterinary medicine from India and pursued his PhD from University of Queensland in molecular and cell biology. His postdoctoral work was on innate and adaptive immune responses and associated aspects of clinical translation. Between 2006 and 2010, he joined UQ Mata Medical Research Institute, Brisbane, as a senior research officer, and he worked on the role of ER stress in pathology of bowel diseases. In late 2010, Dr. Raj joined UTAS as an independent investigator, developing a research laboratory dedicated to gut health, establishing an international reputation in this area over a decade. Dr. Raj is having over 150 publications, two patents, more than 20 PhD completions, and approximately 3 million grants, including National Research and Medical Research Council, Cancer Council, and multiple philanthropy grants. On teaching side, Sir is an expert in bioscience, immunology, nutrition, biochemistry, and he has won the Australian National Award for Excellence in Teaching in 2017. I hope all the participants will get benefited from this webinar. Thank you. Now I would like to request Professor Rajaraman to talk on the topic.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Krishna Priya. That was very generous and lovely. Welcome you all to Ivsa Shivamogga branch, which is really interesting for a local branch to take initiative, to talk to visiting international people. And my special thanks to Shivamogga, the dean, and also my colleague, Dr. Jayashree, who's your genetics professor, but also she was my classmate. So we studied together, and needless to say, she was one of the toppers. I was not, but I think we can always catch up. So that's a message that I think. Basically, it is so lovely to address young vets, people who are studying to be vets, and also contribute in multiple scientific areas. What I thought was to start with a little bit about my career. So hopefully that can inspire a few people. And then move on to the areas of my research work and how I sort of plan my career, how it progressed. So hopefully some of you can pick up some notes from there and say a career path could be something like that. And finally, I want to talk about various careers for you and how to think beyond veterinary science also, as in utilizing the veterinary knowledge and applying it to multiple areas of science. So let me begin a little bit about, this is a little bit of bragging, but that's okay. We can be proud as vets, can't we? So just like Jayashree, my career path was also as a vet. Initially, do you think I joined with a lot of interest? I don't think so. But by the time I think I reached my second year, I thought, hey, this is quite interesting. These subjects are very good, nothing less than a medical student. In fact, I used to, when we attended anatomy lectures, we had some of the superb lecturers, Dr. Seshadri, Lalita Seshadri. I'm sure Jayashree would remember all this. Histology, amazing teachers, just like what you have. And so when we had, initially I thought, veterinary histology, veterinary anatomy, we can easily go through. But if you compare, because I used to teach human anatomy also. For example, in the last 10 years, I taught a lot of human anatomy. But compared to human anatomy, veterinary anatomy is so tough. Physiology is so tough. The reason is you need to now compare the ox, then go into, from monogastric to, ruminants to birds. So completely different systems, right? Unlike the humans where it's easy, just the one system studying all of those. So it made a lot of interest to me. This is amazing how we can compare and learn so much about various systems. So we did the veterinary medicine, and I worked as a vet for the first 2 years for the government of Tamil Nadu into deeper villages. Very exciting. But then I thought, because the final year when we did the clinical medicine, the interest was to do a little bit of research work. So I did a work on the dexamethasone and its effect on the consumption and fetal problems. So very interesting. Then I thought maybe I could do some research work. So came back to master's degree, and luckily the government was able to even give a scholarship at that time. So master's was in preventive medicine. I believe your dean also is a specialist in preventive medicine, which is nice to hear. So preventive medicine was a precursor. But then even in bachelor's in veterinary medicine, my interest was in microbiology, and always loved the learning about various microorganisms, from viruses to bacteria, the classification, pathogenesis, fungal organisms. And probably at that stage we didn't go deeper into many of the others, such as archaea or bacteriophages. But later, as I went into more and more deeper in research, learned more about them. So bachelor's, and then as a clinical field vet, it was very interesting because I attended a number of outbreaks. So anthrax was one of them. We had number of sheep, especially the helminthic problems. I used to treat a lot of those, implement government schemes. Very interesting. But as I said, the research interest was always in my mind. So I came back for my master's in preventive medicine. Professor Raghavan was the head of department, and then later Appaji Rao and so on, were legends of preventive medicine. And so my work was pretty interesting because why I'm telling you this is this formed a lot of basis for my later work. So I did my work on understanding the tuberculosis. So how tuberculosis sort of spreads across organized forms. So I went to 5 massive farms in Tamil Nadu. And so I did work in Ooty and a number of other places. These are like 500 plus animals. By the way, if you have any questions, please ask me. This is a formal, a very informal talk, not a formal talk. I just want just make it as easy, so nothing like a stressful one. This is more like a conversation with somebody who was a vet, who has done a lot of research work. That's all. So take it easy. Please relax and ask me questions if you have any. But I'm going to allocate a lot of time for questions later. So please, you can either on the chat box or later we can open up. Okay. Or if you have in between also, you can always ask me through the chat box. So what happened? So basically, master's degree work, and essentially a tuberculosis work. But what was interesting point, remember, is even as a bachelor student, you need to be curious, because many a times you observe something and then that could make it into a lovely research project, even as a bachelor student. So I'll come to the job opportunities in 1 second. Basically, just want to conclude by saying your focus, your observation, and in multiple angles. So when I did my TB work, it was not only the research work, but I also observed a number of things such as the zoonotic potential of bovine tuberculosis, and then also skin tuberculosis. These are additional work. Why I'm saying that is, when I did all this additional work, as how I observed them and made it into publications. So I think I had 3 publications in Indian Veterinary Journal, and then 3 more in additional other journals. So by the time you finish, you have 6 publications in masters, and that is a basis for further job opportunities. I'm going to cover that in a second. Park it for a second there. What I also wanted to say is, basically, I also worked in Karnataka. So the post master's degree, I came back as a small animal vet. I used to be based in Hebal. Um, PG was Madras Veterinary. At that stage, it was called Madras Veterinary College, and later they changed the name and all that. Now, number of schools have come. When Jayashree and I studied, it was mainly one college, and then I think by the time we finished, it was also Pondicherry. So both from Madras Veterinary College. Then I came to Bangalore, worked in Whitefield, had my clinic there, and also a small animal clinic, both dogs and cats. I used to be, I used to work in Hebal for the RSPCA CUPA. These are welfare organizations. Now, to get to Australia, there are multiple ways. One, as a bachelor, you you can think about masters in veterinary medicine, but not many universities offer masters in veterinary medicine. They either do the bachelor's or the doctor of philosophy or PhD in veterinary and animal science. So essentially, you could do masters in any field because as a vet, you are qualified. For example, when I went, luckily I had a scholarship. That's the reason I said about master's degree, doing master's degree here and getting a number of publications. And so because I had 6 publications, I was successful in getting a Commonwealth fellowship. So there are a number of fellowships from Government of India to Commonwealth countries. So it's not only Australia, but also Canada, US. Because of my experience in USA also, I did my postdoc for 4 years in the US. So I can also talk to you about American chances, opportunities too. So I've been to Canada many times for research, so I can talk about that as well. So it's not only restricted to Australia, but mainly because I've been there for 25 years, over 25 years, it is a well-versed system for me, Australia. So how to get to Australia? Australia is very, as you know, excellent for animals, lots of wild animals, and also farming. Um, masters in veterinary medicine is hardcore. I mean, many universities don't offer. There are only about 10 or 11 colleges that offer veterinary medicine in Australia. So University of Western Australia, University of Queensland, where I did my PhD I didn't do in veterinary medicine, I did in molecular biology. So the point I'm trying to make here is you don't have to only think about veterinary medicine, but apply your veterinary medicine in other areas. For example, you could do in clinical nutrition, and where we use a lot of animal-based work. For example, recently I did a clinical trial in dogs. And so basically you could study masters in other areas and you can always come back to PhD in veterinary medicine also. The general rule for masters in parasitology is very good. Srishti, parasitology is in Australia is excellent. For example, not only the animal parasitology but also marine parasitology, because how the parasites in salmons and other marine organisms are affected, and that costs how it affects the economy is a big deal. So they offer scholarships also in those areas. In general, if you want to do a PhD program, you need to have some paper. So I sit in the panel selecting candidates for scholarships for international students. What happens basically is when we analyze, we go by a number of criteria. Number one, they say is, oh, now have you got a good GPA? And so you could do a GPA wise. Number one. Number two is, have you been consistently getting good marks in the field you wanted to get into? Number three, your English course. But more important, because the competition is so heavy, we offer a number of scholarships for international students, but the competition is like the number of student applications is usually 5 to 6 times more than the actual number of scholarships we give out. So that means we entered into a territory where we analyze by papers. So the best thing is develop interest in certain areas. I remember when I was doing my master's degree, 2 undergraduate students, Chandrasekhar and Sanjeev, I remember them. I think Jayashree may remember them also. 2 brilliant students, okay? Chandrasekhar and Sanjeev. They used to come and work with me. So I was doing preventive medicine work. So I used to do a lot of leptospirosis diagnosis and then later ELISA development for tuberculosis. And these guys used to come and assist me, or they, for example, I used to do some work in the abattoir in Chennai, and these guys would come at 4 o'clock in the morning, assist me, get the serum samples, analyze for antibodies, and all those. So that interest, because of that, they had, as undergraduates, they had 3 papers with me. Now, Sanjeev is practicing vet in the US, also an associate professor, and Chandrasekhar is a leading immunologist at Eli Lilly. I met Chandrasekhar when I was in the US. He is a group leader in immunology in the US. So your basic interest in science is really important. It is not as though you want to go to a country, and you don't even have to go to Australia. India has got brilliant people in parasitology in multiple areas. So you could do a lot of research work. It depends on you. If you have the motivation, there's nothing to stop you anywhere in any field. It is the sort of interest you need to develop. Early on, I was lucky because I developed interest in microbiology, later moved on to preventive medicine, which also covered epidemiology, which also covered a bit of immunology. So that gave me foundation to move on and to my PhD, combining that into molecular biology. So as an undergrad student right now, what you need is interest and focus. Something that you like, focus on that and say, I want to get study well, do well in this particular area, because it doesn't matter. Genetics is a big deal. It's a huge thing in a number of areas. For example, after the genomics, now GWAS, so genome-wide association studies, and multiple areas in genetics, molecular genetics is so exciting. So every area within veterinary medicine has got the equivalent opportunity for you, whether it is animal nutrition, because the pet food industry is massive. Now, as I lead, right now I'm leading multiple departments. One of them is food science and technology. In that, we do a lot of 3D printing. We do a number of fruit product development, and you can apply the very similar thing to animals also. So the entrepreneurship application is another area. For example, if you have a new idea, you can develop into an entrepreneurial idea. So the thing is, it's not just I want to study. Motivate yourself. There's a lot you can achieve. The potential for us, especially as Indians, is humongous. I mean, we are the beauty of the Indian community abroad. As a person who lived in multiple countries, I can tell you the best thing is our hard work. We can apply. We got that attitude of living and being flexible with everybody, right? And to add to that, this hard work, huge success formula. Only thing is application. You need to be focused and say, these are the areas I want to develop. So the basic question everybody wants to ask is, what can I do if I want to do a master's degree? So you can, as I said, there are 10 veterinary schools. The approach is like this. Usually, for example, I have graduated 20 PhD students, a number of master's students, so many honors students. You could do what is called as honors also, veterinary honors. So in Western Australia, University of Queensland, they offer honors program, which is a 1-year research program. Usually the local students use that as a taster, or is research my cup of tea? That's what they analyze in this. So they go test out and then say, yeah, I like research, I want to continue for PhD. They get a scholarship usually if they get a first class. So you can try for what is called an honors program. How do you plan this? You need to plan, for example, if you're in 4th year, even before that, you can say, look, certain areas in animal science. For example, we recently wrote a massive review on antimicrobial residues in animals. So that paper will come up. So something like that, if you have interest in some areas like that, write to the professors in that angle. So your research starts like this. Take out all the universities and say, go into the research section of the veterinary schools and say, what do they work on? What are the research areas? For example, a number of wild type research, wild animal research work is going on. Say a koala habitat. koalas, as you know, they thrive on just eating eucalyptus. So there's a lot of research into the nutrition aspects of koalas, or the probiotic formulation in farm animals. There's a lot of farm animals also in Australia. So you need to formulate an idea within your mind as for a research work. And for example, you can approach Jayashrie's genetics area, and similar interests are there in Australia also. Licensed as a veterinary surgeon, it is very difficult because you need to get into your exam. I mean, unfortunately or fortunately, I never got into that, although I was a practicing vet when I left Australia, India, from Whitefield. Although I just left the whole veterinary practice because I moved on to human medicine, medical research, cancer research, immunology, and so on. So it is, if you are a practitioner, if you want to be a practitioner, you can still do it, but you need to go and finish the veterinary board exam, which is possible. You could do that also, but it is a little bit expensive because you need to pass the test and then appear before that committee, and then they give you a license, just like our Indian Veterinary Association license. No, I'm not a human practitioner. I don't practice medicine. What I do is medical research. So all of you can do that. Basically, the application aspects of research are absolutely the same. For example, I use the same culture methods, tissue culture, and then microbiology, or real-time PCRs, or your genetics analysis, like what you guys do, general positional cloning, and so on. And then the microbiome is my major area of research. In that also, we do a lot of sequencing of the bacterial genes and all that. So application wise, they do the same thing in animals and humans, right? So it doesn't matter. You can be anywhere. You can do systems biology, comparative systems biology. So many a times I study the animal models, right? For example, my research, if you look at my papers, most of them would involve mice, rabbits for vaccine production, or now I collaborate with people to do work in monkeys. So end of the day, human research is not easy. So you actually do a lot of animal work, take the clues, and then apply to human medicine. So as a vet, you have an advantage because you already know the animal physiology. We stand with an advantage. Many times we don't even think that you can get into human medicine, medical research, sorry, not practicing medicine, but human research by doing veterinary medicine. In fact, I would say there's a lot of advantages if you are a veterinary student to get into medical research, because some of the techniques are unique to veterinary science students. Okay, so basically practice can be done. One is the clinical side, then the research side, which is most of you can easily get on with. And also, if it is public health and epidemiology, US is much better, because the reason being, they have, so epidemiology, we need solid databases. So some of the best databases are available in the US. Scandinavia is good for epidemiology, the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, those sort of countries, because unlike our country, which is improving a lot, the record keeping of people's data is the best in Norway, Sweden, those sort of countries. Yes, so you can get the license in Australia with BVSC and animal health degree, but then, as I said, you fulfill the requirements there, which is a massive thing. You need to pass the requirements. Even for doctors from India, it's the same story. So I have a number of MBBS, MD guys who come there, friends. Basically, you need to be doing internship there initially, even after passing the test, and then you need to do for some time. You need to specialize after that under somebody supervision. So after that, they allow you to become a specialist. As I said, you can become a specialist in a certain area, small animal surgery or orthopedics or whatever it is that you want to become. Yes, it is possible, but the thing is, it is a long-winded path. It will take a long time to become a clinician in both USA and Australia and Canada, but doable. Just like human medicine, we need to finish those exams and clear the tests to become a clinician, veterinary clinician. My point is also consider other research angles. You can do a wonderful master's degree here. Make sure your research is somewhat applicable. That's the other aspect we need to think about. The way we think in research in the Western world is it translatable? Applied research is the key word here. Whatever you do, can you get something that is useful? Is it a tangible product that you can get, whether it is a tablet or a patent or some methodology, something that comes out useful? So when you design your masters, you need to think like that. And also think about the research work conducted in, if I were you in third year, fourth year, I'll start working on the research aspects in multiple other universities also, if you want to go into masters, and think about that angle also. So they combine. So some universities call them as animal science, some of them as called as veterinary science. What is in highest demand is actually there is a lot of rural area farms, and that is where they need a lot of doctors in Australia. So, as a veterinarian, you can work in multiple, for example, equine specialization, because, as you know, the racing industry is huge in Australia, and there is a race called as the Melbourne Cup. On that day, we have a holiday in Melbourne. The reason is it'll for just a race, the entire day is a holiday because they give so much importance. 100,000 people will watch it, bet everywhere, and all that. So it's a big racing industry also. Okay, so you can specialize in multiple areas within veterinary medicine if you apply yourself. Again, it depends on your interest and what you want to do. Okay, so I just want to share something and say, as a vet, can you get into multiple areas and shine? Definitely you can. I've been a research lab leader for a long time. I just want to share one document which shows the number of areas of research that I conduct. So if you look at this particular one, I just want to say this is some of the papers that I publish. So I work in biochemistry, immunology. So we look at the organs and cellular structures, just like how we studied in cell biology in first year, second year, biochemistry, immunology. So, for example, mucosal immunology. My interest is in the gut, in the entire gastrointestinal tract, and how the immune system works. In fact, the animal immune system, for example, the poultry is not worked out at all. There is a lot of scope for wonderful research work in that area. And also the Australian CSIRO, CSIRO, Center for Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, has got exclusive animal labs. And so if you have your master's, PhD in animal science, or you can even come for PhD there. So essentially, if you have a good master's, and then you can conduct a number of research areas. So they have extensive labs in, I think, about 400, 500 people working in research in CSIRO in near Melbourne. And the immunology section is headed by one of our students from Madras Veterinary College. So this is the sort of work I do. For example, frontiers in immunology, how we, intestinal epithelium works, or some of the how endoplasmic reticulum within the human cell and how it is implicated in gut diseases. Drug discovery. So we also get into drug discovery in the gut. So for example, I have patents for what are called as short chain naphthoquinones and how they are excellent anti-inflammatory in the gut. Or this is pure inflammation. We were the world first group. My group was the world's first to show how chronic colonic inflammation can be attenuated by small molecule inhibitors of what are called as inflammasomes. These are the ones that are involved in creating inflammation. Okay, and then just some more, even plant actives and how they are important in human inflammation. For example, the bitter melon. We all know that Karela. It is a well-known Indian sort of plant, But what we did is adding a scientific touch to it and say how good it is in diabetes in a model that I created. And so these are just some examples of my papers and my lab work in say, for example, on the right, what you find in marine drugs is the anti-inflammatory activity in seaweeds, how seaweeds can help in anti-inflammatory activity. Not only that, the academic area is also open, and I'm sure Jayshri and others can appreciate from the academics how you can work on educational research. In my area, for example, I work on how we can create digital labs. And also during COVID pandemic, I built an international team to study how digital resilience can happen in higher education in response to COVID pandemic. So these are just examples to show that if you apply yourself, you can do wonders in multiple areas. Don't put yourself in a cage and say, I just want to study BVSC and then let me think about it. No, you need to be always active, be motivated. And then certain areas will strike you as, oh, this is the area, I love it. For example, somebody asks questions about epidemiology, and others may love surgery. And so in every area you like, there is an opportunity for you to grow further and further and further. So what I would like to do is, why don't I answer questions rather than me talking specifically. I can address some of your questions, and how you can get on with your master's or PhD, and also in both clinical practice and research. So you can unmute yourself and ask, or I think we got covered all the things in the chat box, if I'm right. So, Jayshri, is there any certain section you want me to address further? Cutoff GPA for masters usually, because I offer scholarships for my students, if they have around 78 to 80%. I don't know how it converts to GPA, probably 3.5 and above out of 4. What is your...
No, now it is a 10 scale.
10
so
scale, okay.
7.5 to 8 probably.
Yeah, correct, yeah. So we have both veterinary science. Some universities call it as animal science. Some universities call it as animal health. It's just the naming, it doesn't matter. So please ask questions.
So most of them will be bothered about what are the exams they have to take if they want to go into any international universities. That may be a
one
question.
idea is sometimes they want to assess your qualifications. And so basically they can get a credit for some years and then do maybe 1 year there and then get the veterinary degree from there. That's, some people do that. But what is called as a AVE, so the Australian veterinary exam, AVEs, so this is what you need to cover. So this is from the Australian Veterinary Boards Council, AVBS, just like our Indian Veterinary Board. So they do the assessment if you want to register as a vet. So you need to go through the tests, and they give you all the information. If you go through, they do the assessment first. Okay, for example, 7.8 to 8 GPA, you covered all the veterinary courses, and then they conduct what is called as a preliminary examination. So this is your first test, written test. Then they do a clinical examination. So you need to go and do a clinical examination. And after you succeed in both, you get the registration, after which you can work. So it is doable, but it is very little bit expensive, and then you need to be on top of your material, as in your subjects, if you want to do it. So very much doable for those who want to become clinicians. So usually, I think that the fee is about $1,300, $1,200 or something like that. So scholarship, yeah, correct, yeah. So diploma in veterinary is also there. The thing is, you still need to, you can enroll in a diploma in veterinary medicine. I mean, there we have veterinary nursing also. I don't know about your university, but there they also have specialized veterinary nursing courses as well. um, Poultry sector, is not huge, but still there are lots of poultry jobs. um, Many of you can apply for, there is a priority list within Australia and Canada. And what it means is they give you which are the top jobs for which they will provide what is called as the permanent residency. Okay. So permanent residency is the green card equivalent. So that means you are on your path to become a citizen. So you are almost eligible for everything in Australia if you have the permanent residency. So if you look at the priority list and look at some of the poultry and farm animal vet, these are the areas where you can apply with your degree and try to get the permanent residency. That means you can go be there as a local, try to finish the, for example, you can assess your BVSC, try to finish maybe 1 year and then become a vet there, or write the exam when you're there. So um, Gautam is asking, animal science are mostly in corporate office rather than formulating their own feed, and how now companies formulate animal feeds, the word to getting formulating, making medicine for animals. So unfortunately, the Australia is not big in industry, as in there are not too many companies, but still there is a lot of research, medical research, poultry research. As I said, CSIRO is a major animal research body where people can work, but most of them need your PhD into research. Animal feeds and others, I think it's not as big as India. They are only smaller companies. But in the US, yes, there are lots of veterinary pharmaceuticals, and you can get into those, but then you need a master in pharmacy or PhD in pharmacy to get into any of the companies. For example, as I said about Chandrasekhar, he had he had masters in veterinary medicine from IVRI, but then PhD in the US, and then post PhD getting into human immunology. So the way is, it's not difficult to get into human medical research or veterinary medical research by doing MVSC. So looks like, if you want to be a clinician, there is a bit of a difficult path, as in you need to clear the Canadian exam or the Australian exam or the US exam. Basically, as I said, the preliminary assessment with your degree, then your exam, written exam, followed by the clinical examination. Undergraduate, how can we get research opportunity? Uh, that's where I think you need to work with some of the research oriented professors. So people who are doing a lot of research work, you need to approach them and say, can I be part of a small research project, and where you can get a co-authorship in a project. So the best way, I think, Harnoon Kaur's question is very genuine. Basically, the list of universities in veterinary medicine, I I think, because I've been involved in a lot of recruiting for Australia, and I've interviewed a number of students, worked with parents and all that. The way we do most of the universities is they are giving that to agencies, right? I'm not sure about Bangalore, but I've been to Bangalore also, visiting number of agencies, advice, like that. There are about 50 companies, right? These are, I think, Thomas Cook also. So, all these companies, these are the best. Basically, sit with them and say, can you go through and figure out for veterinary medicine? Because these guys work with a number of universities in Australia, Canada, and USA. So you just need to work out, ask them that question, and also your own research into specifically, as I said, there are about 10 or 11 veterinary schools. in Australia. There are about 20 in Canada, about more than that in the US. So basically, you need to either go through yourself one by one and then work that out, or ask the agencies to do the job for you. Because, for example, I work as a professor at the RMIT University, Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. We gave our agency to somebody in Chennai and somebody in Bangalore, all those places. So you could go and ask them specific questions like this. Can you give more information about the veterinary science? Because veterinary science is not that fancy, we normally don't, they don't usually advertise that. Essentially because, for example, masters in pharmacy is a big hit. Usually about 90% of the class will be from India in many universities. IT, 80 to 90% is from India. Engineering, half and half, India and China, like that. So veterinary science is not that well taken up, basically because they usually don't offer masters. Only a couple of universities do offer masters, but mostly you need to write to the researchers in veterinary schools and ask that question: can I come for a master's degree? Veterinary pharmacology, again, if you compare to the human side, the opportunities are a little bit less. Nevertheless, you can actually try and get into a veterinary pharmaceutical company. As I said, we are not competing with human side because the numbers are too many. And so if you specialize in pharmacy, yes, you can get into that. Many companies have two divisions, both divisions, human division and also veterinary division. So you can do that. To get a postgraduate or PhD in Australia, what you need is master's degree. You can, almost they don't give you any scholarship, master's degree. So it is almost ruled out. Some universities give 25% off scholarship, like the University of Tasmania, where I used to work. Many universities give 20% or something like that. So almost you won't get more than that for master's degree. But the trick is you come there for master's degree, and if you like the research work, then you need to continue with your PhD, right? As I said, based on your master's performance, you can get a PhD scholarship, and that's a very good scholarship. So currently I have 7 PhD students. 2 of them are working on microbiome in humans, 2 in clinical nutrition. One will be working on the effect of dietary fibers in the gut. Other 2 will be, one is on basic biochemistry, the other one is on immunology. So like this, we do attract students, and I don't get students without scholarship because life is very difficult if you don't have a scholarship. Masters is okay, it's only 2 years, and Australia allows you to stay on for 2 more years. So you can work for 2 more years. By then you can decide what you want to do, right? So
The one student has asked about the parasitology
sure.
in Australia, PG program.
So PG program is very good. That's what there are at least 2 or 3 excellent groups working on. It is, as I said, don't restrict yourself to animal parasites, but enter into the marine parasites. Then you get a lot more money. For example, a lot more scholarships and also research projects. Why I say that is I lead a team of 70 people. There are about 2 people in my team that work on marine biology. So they work on the parasites that are pathogens or problematic in farming industry, fish farming. They work on multiple other projects, other marine animals also. So it is, and then parasitology is also important in human side as well. So and immediate, you can apply the veterinary parasitology and link it to human disease also. So please do not think as though it is exclusively only about tapeworms in dogs. No, you can always apply that to humans also. You can, many a times you can use animal models and infer into humans. So doctorate in animal. So I think you're talking about PhD. Doctor of Philosophy in Veterinary Medicine. Every university has got that PhD program. As I said, the prerequisite is your master's, or some universities provide what is called as honors degree. So the last year of the undergraduate is called honors. You can get into honors program. Usually they don't give admission to foreign students for honors. You are directly eligible only for master's degree, not for honors degree. So master's degree is a prerequisite for many things. Whether you want to get into another job in pharmacy, oriented industries, nutrition, wet food, or you want to get into a PhD program, master's is a must. Bachelor's, you can say, with just a bachelor's, what can I do? You can take a difficult test to become a vet in USA, Canada, or Australia. It is doable. Many people have done. I think Jayshi knows a famous senior of ours, Ravi Sheshadri. He has got a chain of veterinary clinics in the US. So it is doable. Many people have done that. Another friend of ours, Prasad, he went into private industry, pharmaceutical industry after his PhD. So but yeah, so some courses, Sumit, basically you're right. I mean, number of in each of these specialties, whether it is pathology, parasitology, surgery, even veterinary epidemiology, they call a separate one. For example, I used to work with people at James Cook University. For example, they provide veterinary medicine degree, but they also have specific research areas for PhD programs in medicine. Internal medicine, I mean, and then they have preventive medicine. They have surgery and so on. So they do have specific. It is actually the program that defines that. For example, within the surgery department, they may have 3 or 4 research projects with funding. So how it works in foreign countries is the project leader. I used to, for example, if I get funding and then I say I want to attract a PhD student, then I advertise for that and say, I am looking for a PhD student in veterinary nutrition. Then many students will apply, and then they interview and select one student for the program, which is 3.5 years. The best colleges, I mean, it is very subjective, Krishna Priya, to say which are the best colleges. I have worked in many colleges, many universities in both USA and Australia. So you can go either by ranking or you go by projects, because you may have the best. For example, Australia's number 1 is University of Melbourne, but they may not. I mean, they do have veterinary medicine, but they may not have the projects in the area you like. For example, livestock production and management. Okay, so in that case, what will you do? Whereas another university may have a good project. The idea is that if you want to get into those areas, you need to read about the research groups, be in constant communication with them, express your interest, and then you could apply. So,
One student, shall I interrupt? Dr. Mr. Rajappa Nayak is asking repeatedly the same question. GPA matters to pass those exams.
No, basically
so
they
can
do the
pass in
assessment.
undergrad. So how come they can make it up to go for higher studies abroad?
Sure. So let me answer that question. So essentially, they do first assessment of your degree. So this is common for any degree, whether you do nursing from India, physiotherapy from India, whatever it is. They do what is called as a preliminary assessment. Okay, eligibility assessment rather. And so it goes to the veterinary council, and they give a certificate and say, yeah, it is eligible for at least equivalent to an Australian degree. Then what they do is they do the preliminary examination, then the clinical examination. So this is a 3-step process that you need to go through. So Rajappa, so that's the process that you need to undergo for all the 3 countries. Same thing. What would be good is you approach a practicing vet in those countries and ask them this question. End of the day, they can help you with some of the way they approach the questions, right? Because the way you are tested in Indian Veterinary Council or in your exams here is completely different to how they see it. So there are practice tests. You can buy them online and do all those. It is very much doable, but it is a bit expensive and it will take some time. So if you are prepared to do all that, that will be really good. But also contact somebody who has gone and done that, because that way you'll exactly get the answers as to how you can approach it much better. But the process is the same thing, and the assessment and then the preliminary examination, clinical examination, get the council registration, then only you do it. It is the same for nurses, it is the same for anybody else, physiotherapy and multiple other allied health professions also. Expected cost, I can tell you, it is about 60,000 per year for masters, and undergrad program that we provide in Australia is 5 years, and each year is 60,000. So it is 300,000 Australian dollars, and multiply that by 55 for conversion to Indian rupees. So not cheap. It is very, very expensive. Very similar structure in the US also. So you could go for a master's and then try and see if we can pass the veterinary medical board exam also. So some students do that as well. They go and do the master's and then work into the clinical system as well. So the Krishna Priya's question about best colleges in Canada and Australia, I think, as I said, it is very subjective, and you need to either go by ranking and also by your interest, whether you want to do masters or PhD. Masters usually doesn't matter, because you need to do some first year is usually subjects, and 1 year of research is a second year. So this is a key. When you do a second year, you need to strategically place yourself so that you're going to do a PhD program if you really want to do that. And that stage, you need to be focused, make sure that you work really well towards getting at least one publication, because then your chances for getting PhD scholarship would be really high. Yes, so Harnoon, the answer is yes, you are allowed certain hours. I think they increased it in Australia. When I was a student, it used to be only 20 hours per week, but they probably increased it. But then, you need to think about how you manage yourself. It is important, right? Because you are there for a purpose of studying, but if you overwork and forget this, it beats the purpose. So there are lots of students. My own students also work minimal hours. So currently, I have 3 international students with scholarship. They only work. If you have a good scholarship, that is more than sufficient. Many a times they save half of the scholarship in the bank. Otherwise you can work, say 15 hours. It's okay, because in the weekend you can work for 4 or 5 hours, earn some money. It is not going to cover your fees at all. It is never going to cover your fees. So you need to work through the educational loan or whatever it is, and then pay it off when you start working. Devashri, I don't know whether IVSA recorded it, maybe not, but I tell you what, Jayashree has made wonderful notes of whatever has happened here. So you could approach Dr. Associate Professor Jayashree to answer some of your questions. Thank you, Karthik. Yeah. So plus also look, because I've benefited so much from the Indian veterinary system, so I'm happy to answer your questions even through an email or something if you have further. But the thing is, you need to love your subjects. You need to be focused, and whatever is heart telling you, I want to become a clinician or a particular area of research, go for the. You need to apply yourself, study well, and think outside the box. What are the areas where there is a knowledge gap? That means where are the areas for research scope? And also you don't have to constantly only think about abroad, because now I'm collaborating with a number of institutions in India, because India is really shining in research. So for example, I work with 5 institutions now. Lovely University in Punjab. I work with CUTN. I work with Savita. I work with CFTRI. By the way, the good news is from Mysore, we are taking, for my department, I'm taking 3 students from Mysore for CFTRI for with PhD scholarship. So we have a collaboration where we give 40 scholarships to CSI or institutions in India, and they come there for masters, for the PhD 1 year there, and they get a double integrated PhD program. So they get two universities in their degree, as students getting PhD from two institutions. So I got Arnab, who is coming for plant biotechnology, to work with me. So he'll be cloning a certain gene for vanillin from an endangered Indian species. So like that, you really can work even within the Indian system also, because I think in about 10-15 years, India will be the center of quality research. So that is the reason I am establishing a number of collaborations with Indian institutions. These are great. The quality is, each day it is improving, and number of wonderful work in many areas. So the point is, you need to figure out who you are yourself. It depends on your interest, depending on your situation, depending on your personality, which one is the best for you. Am I very good in treating animals? Am I going to be a good scientist? At some stage you'll realize it, and then you work it out, and work according to that. And there are people to help you from your own institutions and other institutions, and always happy to assist you guys. If you want sort of counseling, I'm also happy to help, because I do that for my students. So I take care of about 400 research students in my own area. So they always come to us and ask for lots of advice and questions. Well, very good question, Ganesh. I think it is for me, what it takes to be a good scientist: passion. Only one word. For example, many a times I tell them, research and being a scientist is not included in my workload, because that is my second nature. In everything I see science. I So essentially, to be a scientist is to be passionate to science and the sort of area, and also always be broad in your approach. Many a times I apply from engineering, I apply from other areas in my own research area in biology, applied biology. So it really, you need to be confident. I mean, it is, if it is your heart is saying I want to be a scientist, by all means, you can become one. So basic approach is, look, you will be very confused at this stage. We're all confused. I think you guys may be better placed than how I was. Basically, at some stage you need to sit down and say, based on the following factors, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what I want to choose for my further career. I want my area, for example, vaccine research or veterinary immunology is very appealing to me. I want to go to IVRI, apply for a scholarship, and open yourself. Now, don't restrict yourself into a box. There is a wide world there. In, for example, biotechnology mixes everything: animal biotechnology, human biotechnology, everything. So this is the way you need to approach it. Some stage, understand yourself. Knowing yourself is important, and you need to be also confident. Basically, always talk to scientists. Go and talk to professors, and approach that way. Constantly motivated by research, constantly motivated by reading. An important aspect as a good scientist is reading. So I'm sure Jayeshi does the same thing. For us, I read for at least 30 minutes every day, with at least 4 to 5 papers, journal papers, and update myself every single day. And so that is an important aspect, as a that thirst for knowledge, thirst for understanding more research, and that opens a way for what is the knowledge gap where I can fill, where I can come in and work in that area. Many a times, even a simple solution is enough. For example, some lady in Mysore, I was at CFTRI, International Food Convention. All she did was to coat the curcumin, this haldi, into nanoparticles and sell that, which is a fantastic bioavailability. One technique, and now she's selling so much of haldi into a nano haldi, microparticles. So multiple veterinary journals. I mean, develop the habit of reading, because reading is important. all the time. And I've published, now I probably am approaching 200 publications. I mean, it's now bread and butter for us, publications, writing, right? So as a student, you may find it difficult, but my advice, or the advice I got from some of the best people in the world in scientific writing, was every single day you need to sit down and write something. And that practice in everything, right? Whether you are even if you ask the singers, they'll say, I ask these great Carnatic singers when they come to Melbourne, when I come to Australia, how are you so good? What do you do? They say, we practice for 15-20 hours. Okay. So similar approach to us also. As a student, you need to constantly be reading, approaching that, and you'll be fascinated by how it opens up a new thing for you. And instead of wasting your time on multiple videos of cinema and all that, this is a time you need to be a professional and be motivated. You can do wonders within that area. I was exactly like you. So whether it is Gangadhar, Nayomika, or Gautam, or Lily, I was exactly like you. Okay, exactly. Oh, confused. I don't know what to do. We all go through these things. So this the aspect is not about money also. It is a passion, research. So yeah, patents, one of them gives me, end of the day, Ganesh, it's not about money at all. As a scientist, you enjoy much more in discovery. Okay, so that what will motivate you. For example, I used to always tell my students, if for example, one of the drug discoveries we have is a mitochondrial enhancer, boosts people's gut. Even if I find one solution to one problem, one little problem in humans, I'll be happy with that. So that is a sort of motivation more than money, because as a senior executive, as a professor at this stage, it's not about money at all for me. Money is only probably third or fourth in the list. The first list is that discovery, that satisfaction you get out of this. The that the day we get wonderful results out of the lab, that is when you get that euphoria, that sort of feeling, ecstasy you can't get with $1 million. Money cannot replace that. It is the aspect of discovery, aspect of satisfaction for all of us. Similar to, I remember how we used to take care of the farmers who depends on one cow, right? If the cow is sick, he's down, he can't get that money. Getting, for example, the simple milk fever treatment, the calcium goes in, the cow jumps up and be active, that satisfaction. Or a delivery, difficult delivery and getting the cough out, and that satisfaction, not only for the farmer but also us, like that. And that cannot be replaced by money, right? So the interest in research is passion. So you develop that passion into discovery, into something curious, something I want to solve. For example, I opened the recent review, we opened up antimicrobial resistance, which is a silent time bomb that is ticking, like the epidemics. Even for example, this corona thing, as a vet you can be involved, because the amount of basic research, for example, how initially animals played a role as intermediate hosts. Here is a veterinary research, right? And this is a sort of thing we should be, as vets, should be more and more involved in multiple human conditions, where there is zoonosis, there is intermediate host level, parasitology, so many areas as well. Okay, so at the moment, we are working on a number of other patents also in food formulations in my recent work. Just like MBBS, ICMR, yes. So we have I think some of your professors may be in a better position to answer. I'm a little bit out of touch in India.
No, we are covered under ICAR, but
Yeah.
there is a proposal to have an ICVR. The
Okay.
VCI is working upon that. But as
Yeah.
such, we are working under the ICR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, because we address more on the agriculture related issues.
Absolutely. I
So
think
it goes, and our funding is through ICR for the research majority. But of late, recently they are trying. They have worked out the modalities to have a ICVR through the VCI.
Absolutely. And even for us, Jayashree, we think of agriculture and veterinary as together. Basically, how agriculture and farming, they're all part of this veterinary practice. So that's the other aspect, whether it is even in taking Jayash's area, genetics and epigenetics, these are all influenced by plant and animal interactions, environmental interactions. So as undergraduate students, these may sound very like, oh, how can I do all these things, right? As a second year, third year student, all I would say is focus. You can do wonders if you focus. Get
So I
motivated.
can also add to that Gautam's point. I did a project funded by ICMR. That was the first of its kind when ICMR has funded a veterinary institution,
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
I did a study on the psychosocial attachment a human has towards his pet and domestic animals. So I am in the process of analyzing, and shortly it will be published articles.
That's
So we
awesome.
just completed the project, and it is going to come out. It is really true. The stress level of non-pet owners is more than the pet owners. That's what the analysis says, and I am going to do the in-depth analysis. It was just concluded in September. So I am
Fantastic.
into the data, working on the data. Because of my knowledge on statistics, I could get that project, ICMR funded project. It was for 2 years, and I got to employ some 3 people who were graduates, and it was like a breadwinner for them also.
Superb.
Yes, the first of its kind which our university got. So that's what I want to say, Gautam, that we need not have an ICMR or ICVR, but we can mutually submit proposals if you have a research thirst.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I do many times. Think outside the box. You have knowledge of number of areas, and then you find something that you can solve. For example, I'm currently working on food valorization. For example, how food waste can be converted into nutritious products, a nutraceutical angle. So many a times, we are restricted by ourselves. You need to think, I can do this. That motivation has to come. Every one of us has got unique talents, and you need to. That is why I said the term "you understand yourself" is exactly that. You need to figure out, I am good in something, right? And that is what you need to pursue. And I was trying to say, through your personality, through your certain subjects, or really striking a chord with you. I mean, for example, I told you, third year, I think second year or third year, we had microbiology. That was superb. I loved it. And then when Dr. Matthew John came, epidemiology, preventive medicine, I got so much interest. So our friend Sri Kumar always was parasitology. He said, I just want to work on. So like that, you'll develop some interest. Surgery, medicine, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. In every single area, you can contribute. It is not as though you need to be only a researcher. Even as a clinician, you are contributing so much to the people's lives, to the economy of the country. So you in multiple ways, you are all contributing. The thing is, veterinarians are such an important aspect of any research or clinical side. So don't feel bad about or even inferior in any way. You are as good as anybody, any medical doctor, because that's a respect I get all the time. The moment I mention I'm a veterinary surgeon who used to work with small and large animals, the amount of respect I get is going up all the time. So you'll get your respect as a vet, and then think about multiple applications you can use the veterinary knowledge. As Jayeshi said, even the social aspect, you can use your veterinary knowledge. And I design my clinical trials in dogs. I'm doing a study in horses now. All these things is because of the veterinary knowledge we got, and how even the colonic hindgut fermentation in horses, superb area. And so this is the advantage you have as a vet. I think even more than the human doctors, as veterinarians are in much better place in research and as a clinician. um, so yeah, clinical subjects are excellent. I mean, as I said, whether it is a clinical nutrition, clinical pharmacology, pathology, everywhere there is masters and PhD program. So you could do anything you like. Once again, it is your interest. The best way to gain knowledge is read, read, read. All the time you need to be reading. Do not waste your time, because you're a professional now, and hence move on with a lot of interest and enthusiasm, and say, I can achieve this. Every one of you can do it. It is. I was exactly like you, very ordinary student, but only thing is I had a vision. So you all need that vision and say, look, I can see myself doing well in a particular area. But identify that. Identify yourself, the inner you. Who am I actually? It is not the person who is just playing in the hostel. It is actually much more than that. You need fun also. There is a good mix of work and play is important, but do not lose sight of your what you want to achieve, and hence the focus is important.
Somebody has asked about lab animal facilities of research institutes.
So, fantastic. I mean, I can talk about USA and Australia, because both the countries I worked for a number of years. So I worked at the University of California, Los Angeles, one of the top class. So right next to me were two Nobel laureates. So I used to go and talk to them all the time. And then I moved to Indiana University, Purdue University. So every research institute, major part is an animal facility. So you can, it's very expensive also to maintain all these things, but through grants we do that. If you go and Google my name and look at my papers, majority of my papers would be mice, because to get clues, we work on in an ethical way, of course, and then try to apply. So I've done 3 clinical trials in humans, but the knowledge came from mice initially. For example, the microbiome research, and then now I'm applying that in humans. Equine medicine, again, USA is really good in equine, because they give specialized master's degree, both Canada also, equine medicine degree, you can study that. And so I tell you examples of 2 of my colleagues, my juniors, who became excellent equine practitioners, Ganeshan and Rajshekhar. So they both used to work in horse racing in near Chennai, big horse race industry, Chettinad. They used to be taking care of hundreds of horses. And now Ganeshan owns a big horse pharmaceutical, and now the supplement distributor for horses. He is the number 1 in UAE, in Dubai. So if you have interest in equine medicine, you can pursue that. And so I would say the US would be the best. Yeah. So Devashri, we are all similar, isn't it? I mean, it's difficult initially for me. If I didn't have a scholarship to do master's degree, I wouldn't have come on also. So initially we all struggle. That's how the growth is. It is about it is about approach, right? Even if you don't have money, if you explain your condition, your interest, and then focus, there are ways to overcome this. You can study abroad. It is not a must. As I said, in my mind, India is shining. India is doing really well in research. I work with people on infectious diseases, and recently they are writing a paper in Lancet, number 1 journal in the world. So you can do, but if you really want to do, the best way is to get a scholarship and study abroad. So as I said, some of the ideas I gave you earlier on, you can apply, Devashri, to see if you really want to study with the scholarship. That means you need to become qualify yourself in a you need to be meritorious and get that scholarship. After completing in PG in pathology, again, the PhD, they won't give as specifically as pathology. What you need to think about in PhD side is about research programs. That's what I said. You need to go through each university and say, what are the research areas? Who are the research groups? What are they working on? Okay. For example, I tell you, in my own department I had, they do fatty liver disease in poultry. Okay. So that's a very good pathology project, but you may not pick it. They don't advertise as PhD in pathology. They go by project. So you need to look into PhD programs, research projects, titles available, and then you go from there. So you can approach it that way. Don't look for PhD in pathology, but you look for PhD in based on the research groups, research leaders, how they advertise. That is the angle you need to research on. Okay, so you can do that way. They'll say certain pathological condition. As an example, I told you poultry fatty liver disease. That's my department where I head. One of my colleagues, she does that project. They got funding to do. So they will only advertise as studying fatty liver disease in poultry. That is a pathology project, but it is not given as PhD in pathology. It may be given as PhD in biotechnology, whatever it is. So you need to search in terms of research proposals, research projects, research programs in multiple universities. Scholarships, again, masters, hardly any in any country. Yes, USA, you can do it. They still provide only certain percentage. Even as I said, Australia provides 25% scholarship for masters. The best books for veterinary for increasing passion, I think it depends again on what you want to achieve. So as I said, at this stage, most of you, I guess, are second year and third year, maybe heading to fourth year student. You identify yourself. That's the main thing now. And the first thing you need to do is look, I'm going to focus. And I'm capable of achieving a lot of things, but I need to figure out what I want to do. Because as I said, there are 100 avenues opening up for you now, from clinical side, from master's side, and then moving on to PhD side. And within that, 25 areas where you can work on, from pathology, surgery, medicine, LPM, and the livestock production, poultry. Within poultry, again, multiple areas. So that is what I'm saying. You sort of focus and say, this is what I want to achieve, and move on with that. Transgenic, yes. So very much so. For example, Ganesh, the CSIRO for Australia, if you even research CSIRO Australia, you can see all the projects they are doing. They are the people who are helping in multiple angles for Australian farm production. And then transgenic is an important part. Genetics, as what Jayshree works on, is a major part of animal production. They do a number of transgenic products. And so both in animals and plants, it is a big area. And also, as I said, multiple other projects. One of the projects we have just started is in vitro meat production. Now the alternatives to meat is emerging as a big area. Not only meat, but also alternatives are in vitro meat. That means, can you produce meat in the lab? People have already started selling those things, and they showed that the taste and texture and everything is so similar. So that's what I'm saying. You, as a vet, you are in a very good position to enter into so many areas of research work. Don't contain yourself into only one area. You have lots of opportunities available to you throughout the world. What are the other options apart from this? Yeah, academic side. So you can start teaching. For example, if you have a master's degree, you are eligible to teach in diploma in veterinary medicine or nursing, animal sciences area. So that is the other area where you can teach also. Or if you want to get into writing, so there is something called as medical writing, because of your knowledge in veterinary science. So medical writing is a big profession. So Google medical writing. If you are good in writing, you need to develop a solid knowledge. You already have knowledge about physiology, knowledge about pharmacology, right? Then you become a very good writer. You need to do a little course in medical writing. Beautiful area, good money. You can work from home because you're only working for a pharma company. You are the one who is actually advertising their projects through your medical writing. So there is an area like that. Transcription is another area. Look, end of the day, I've got veterinary medicine, but I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be research. You can become a transcript maker. For example, pathologists in the US, they'll send you the recorded version. You make the transcript. because you have that knowledge, it's much easier for you. So like that, there are and then other important area people don't think about is patent attorneys. So I actually got selected to be a patent attorney in a leading Australian firm, but I didn't go. Basically, you need a good medical knowledge, and you can become a patent attorney. Basically, again, good writing skills. How do you get it? Every single day you need to write something scientifically. So these are some of the options, Anupama, but there are at least half a dozen additional options that are available to you. No, laboratory medicine is another one. Some veterinary students, I know two veterinary students came for that. They study veterinary medicine, but they do laboratory medicine masters, and then after 2 years they qualify to become working in pathology labs as biochemist, as a histologist, as geneticist. So you can do that also. These are other options that are available apart from clinician and research area, and also ethics. So you could become a clinical trials coordinator because of your knowledge in medicine, again, all those things. No, master's degree, as I said, it is by approach. You need to, this is an answer to Ankita Priyadarshini. Basically, yes, master's degree you can approach by writing to the group, and usually you can negotiate for more scholarship. But by and large, generally the scholarships are very limited for master's students. They give sometimes, usually if they want to see you, if you go and impress them, then they give you tuition fee waiver. So initially it may be hard, but you go do really well, then they'll say okay, I'll give you a tuition fee waiver, or they give you what is called as a tutor position. You can go and get some money in practical teaching for the labs, undergraduate labs, things like that. So there are multiple ways. The thing is, be in touch with some of the guys who have been successful, some of the seniors who have achieved it, and you ask them how they did it. And so the idea is that you need to show passion and say, you approach the research groups and talk to them and say how I can come and work in the lab because I like this project genuinely. Master's procedure, Devashi, is, it depends. I mean, if you really want to do if you can't afford, then the thing is, some places offer free. For example, Germany usually, but then you need to be good in German language. So you can qualify yourself. That's what I'm saying. By third year, you need to start your research work, as in not research, studying about various universities, how I can approach this. All those things should be done. One approach is to talk to these agencies, advise and so on. They are the ones who have got all the information about various universities and scholarships and so on. So you can start your work slowly, building upon what I want to do step by step. Course-based masters is okay, but not very much preferred. For example, if we allocate, this is Deepali Bandari's question. Course-based masters is okay to get into somewhere, but for getting further into a PhD scholarship, it is not considered, regarded quite highly. Okay, so you need to have a research project. Most of the time we ask the question in my panel. I've chaired many panels for scholarship. The question we ask is, have you done a thesis? How many words? And what sort of GPA you've got? So yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in terms of how various universities approach this, but you can do yourself. As I said, some agencies can help you understand this process, and depending on what you want to do, which area you want to do, as vets, you are qualified to do medical side also, human medical side, right? So you have much wider variety of options available to you than somebody who is only doing, say, chemistry or something. Okay, so you do have quite a bit of opportunities to do masters abroad if you want to do, but also consider the Indian institutions, which are, again, you can go from there also. As I said, masters at CSIR, start PhD, and then they go to another university as an exchange. So There are other options also. Not everybody has to always go abroad. As I said, I'm coming back to India for research work because India is doing so well in scientific research. So in general, masters, yeah, I mean, don't expect too much out of it. But some universities, if you are really good, they can consider giving you more. USA, it happens more than anywhere else, depending on your score in GRE also. If you have a high scoring in TOEFL GRE plus the good score in BVSC, the opportunities are more to get scholarship for masters. Yeah. So, Anupama, the question is depending on again on your master's performance. If you do well in your master's, getting high grades consistently and having papers is important, and then your PhD scholarship. The international PhD scholarship is extremely competitive, very very competitive. So I can tell you, as I said, I get 5 times the numbers. We offer about, what is it, 40 or 50 scholarships, but I get more than 200 applications, 300 applications to get out of. So then when we assess, we need to now look for even publications. Within publications, Q1 journals. Within that, are you the first author? Like that, it becomes tighter and tighter. So it depends. The answer is that it depends on your master's performance. Most PhD programs, yes, there's plenty of scholarships available, but you need to make yourself meritorious to get that. So it's difficult because how can you? I mean, master students, they are, first year they're studying the courses, they are just doing a research work for 6 months. How do you get that? So it is a difficult proposition. I agree, for master students to get publications. Many a times the successful ones I've taken, they worked as research assistants in somewhere. At that time, to within the next 2 or 3 years, that is where they get a lot of publications because they assist the labs to publish a lot of papers. Um, for average master student, if they have two publications, at least one being first authored in one good journal, that will be really good. And that I would consider as a decent work by a master student. So it is not a hard and fast rule. It depends on multiple universities, and as I said, you need to take a sheet of paper and write down each of these things and cross and work out. So there's a lot of work to be done by you for choosing what you want to do. So, Karthik, I think I haven't got more. Do you want to conclude there? Are there any additional questions I could answer? Otherwise,
Listen, I think one question you have not attended, sir.
which one is it?
The question is, how is Harper and University for medicine and surgery in UK?
I don't know. The answer is because as I said, there are a number of private universities advertising all the time, and so you need to. I mean, if you really want to go for quality, you need to look at rankings. I mean, even they don't reflect completely, but at least some sort of a measure to assess universities is how do they stand in the world in terms of ranking. But individual departments vary. Some of them, veterinary school is really excellent, but overall they are not well placed, right? So then you are missing out in that one also. So it is by a bit of research by you online, and then asking around other people. So at some stage you get a good taste of, okay, this is good quality program because they publish in high quality journals, the professors are good in getting grants, so student testimonials are good, like that. So you need to, just like how you choose a hotel, right? If you book an Airbnb, what do? You go and look for the reviews, right? Similarly, you need to do the similar thing for the universities also. Go by, look at the reviews, how they're performing and all that. Having completed my postgraduate in veterinary, doing PhD in oncology, it really doesn't matter either in veterinary side or human side. The PhD, post PhD program is usually what we call it as a postdoctoral fellow. So I went to the US after my PhD, worked with some of the best labs in the world, top quality immunology labs. So it really doesn't matter, animal side or human side, plant side, bacteria side, it doesn't really matter. Everywhere it is the same story. You are called as a postdoctoral or post PhD, and then in whatever area, at that stage it is critical that you get high quality publications. And slowly the career graph is, you head, it is similar story as mine. I was a postdoc for say 6 to 7 years, then got my own funding. So once you get your funding, start recruiting PhD honors students, master students, establishing my own lab, moving from assistant professor, associate professor, and then I became senior executive. So like that, this is how the career progression is. At every single stage, it is, depending on where you work, how you publish, how many grants you're getting, depending on good supervisors you have, because they are always mentoring you, right? That is important also. So this is how you'll progress, Anupama. This is a story for everybody. All scientists are the same. Very similar story.
Okay, good, Rajaram. It was very interesting, and you have almost answered each and every one. It was like an one-to-one talk. But what I feel from your thing is the writing skill has to be improved in our students. So most of based on their performance in papers and all, because they have got used to these multiple choice answering and all those things, no? Since their sixth standard or so, they got used to that. So the sentence building is a very big task for them. So I
It is.
think like Karthik and team or in the IVSA platform only, they can have some sessions like writing skills or some sharing a paragraph, writing
Exactly.
about a topic and discussing. So like that, they, as an undergrad, they can improve upon the skill. And
I
once,
can, yeah, that's a very, very valid point, Jayshree. So I do scientific skills for students in China. I can do similar one. So Karthik, at some stage you can contact me. I can do a session on how to write scientific papers, how to improve scientific skills, how to think like a scientist. Some stage, okay. So yeah, happy to assist there as well. Yeah.
Okay, so definitely we'll be contacting in the future
No
days.
problem. And
We are also thinking of running a webinar in scientific paper writings.
yeah, that is important. Even as an undergraduate student, you need to think like that. Yeah, like a scientist, you need to think. And as I said, focus, bit more motivation, time management is important. Do not waste time now because it's so precious. So constantly talk to your professors, understand more, get more knowledge, and everybody can do it. As I said, I was same as everybody else here. So we can all do it. Everybody, you can achieve great things if you apply yourself, and and a little bit of additional work is needed, but that can be done if you want to achieve things in life. So I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much, Karthik, and the team at IVSA, and Jayshree for wonderful colleague. Great research work she's doing, and all the best to the entire team. And thank you all for your listening, and happy to assist further. Thank you very much.
So thank
Good
you, sir.
evening,
So
everyone.
now I call for the vote of
Thank you,
thanks.
sir.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Akshaya. Currently in second year BVSC of Veterinary College, Shivamogga. On behalf of IVSA Shivamogga, I'd like to give the vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our Dean, Dr. K. Ganesh Uduppa, sir, for giving permission to proceed with the webinar. And I would like to express our profound gratitude to beloved HOD of Department Animal Genetics and Breeding, Dr. R. Jayashree ma'am, for organizing and supporting us with this webinar. And especially, I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our speaker, Professor Rajaramam. Thank you, sir, for sparing us your time within your busy schedule. And today we got an opportunity to hear your thoughts and surely going to encourage us in the future. And it's kind of motivating and gave us clarity about further courses. Thank you, sir. And I'm thankful to your technical team and supporting team that played a role in smooth conduct of the webinar. And I extend best wishes for the future and thank for the future. And everyone once again for the time and contributions. Good evening all. Thank you.
All the best.